Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives. For this week, I've been living with this 2025 Mazda CX-70 Turbo S, Mazda's two-row version of the three-row flagship CX-90, a car that I actually went to the launch event for in San Francisco a few years ago. And that car was a pretty big deal for a couple reasons. It replaced the CX-9, which existed forever in four-cylinder front-wheel drive bias form, and it introduced the turbocharged Inline-6 to Mazda, the most powerful production engine they've ever put in anything. And there were talks of the CX-70 back then as well, that they were going to make a two-row version of the CX-90, but I don't think anyone necessarily expected that it would essentially be exactly the same, because the body, the engine, the transmission, everything that drives this is like 99% identical to the CX-90. So it begs the question, why didn't they just call it the CX-90 and give you an option to put a third row in it? I don't really know, but this is what we have today, the CX-70. There are a couple of little differences that we will show you around on today's drive, but today's going to be a bit of a day in the life because I've got a couple of things on the agenda. I'm meeting my dad for lunch. We're going to have some sushi together at 11:30, and then I'm actually going to Vintique Motors to do some bring a trailer photography for some motorcycles later today. So a bit of an action-packed, what day is today? Thursday. You're probably seeing this on a Sunday. Maybe you're seeing it on a Thursday. I'm not too sure. But this will be our chariot for our errands, and we'll show you what it's like to live with. And, well, anyway, before we get into all that, let's talk about what we have in front of us. Well, like I said, this is a Turbo S. This is the top dog. Of course, the base CX-70 does still come with an inline-6 turbo, but the Turbo S gets a bit of a power bump, 60 horsepower over the base, which means this turbocharged 3.3 inline-6 is putting out 340 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. We also have a 48-volt mild hybrid system with iStop, I think it's called, the kind of auto stop-start system, which can shut this thing off. We have an 8-speed automatic, and we have all-wheel drive. So a pretty European sort of configuration going on here. And we all know how this drives. You guys have seen the CX-90, and you've probably seen CX-70 videos by now, but I just wanted to give my take on it and show you what it's like to live with. So obviously, the CX-70 is a two-row, really is the main difference between this and the CX-90, and of course, the 7 as opposed to a 9 badge on the back. But we do have quite a bit of room back here. Obviously, since we don't have third-row seats, there is some room underneath for your snow scraper there. And does somebody know what these are? These came in the car. What are these, and why have I been cursed with them? All right, well, hopefully this entire thing doesn't rattle on today's drive, but you can see we have really an impressive amount of room back here. Obviously, with this being the flagship architecture, it is quite a large SUV. Got some plugs back here, but otherwise, and then we have power folding functions for our second row seats, you can see. And with those folded down, very cavernous. I don't think they fold back up. No, they don't. You have to do that yourself. So let's do that right now. This is finished in Rhodium white, which is actually an optional extra. It's about $600. It's one of the few things you can add to this. Mazda is kind of big on just doing trim levels. They aren't huge on individual options. And the CX-90 is available with something crazy like 13 or 14 different trim levels. The CX-70 has less, which means it actually is more expensive on a base level than the CX-90 by about $2,000. The CX-70 starts at $40,000, while the CX-90 starts at about $38,000. We also have unique wheels. Today we're on a Falcon ZX CT60A AS. That sounds like some sort of Chinese car name from 2008. 275/45 R21 squared setup, and these wheels are unique to the CX-70. Turbo S gets you lots of nice trimmings. Obviously, this is a Turbo S Premium Plus, so top of the line. This one, as tested today, about $58,000. It's just as pretty much as expensive as you can get, unless you go crazy with dealer accessories. I bet you could find your way over $60,000. This is a massive rear door, like a BMW 7 Series. We have some sunshades back here, which are not power, but they are there. Really nice Alcantara material on the door panels, nice stitching, nice kind of fake wood design. This isn't the most exquisite interior ever, but I gotta say, for a Mazda, I think it's the best they've ever done, and you'll see more of that once we get up front. Turbo S Premium Plus gets these Alcantara inserts. This interior is simply called Tan, which I respect. They haven't gone too crazy with naming. We have a black headliner. We have our own climate panel back here, 2 USB-C ports. We have a fold-down armrest with some cup holders. And as far as room goes, sat behind myself at 5'11", I have plenty of it. I've got good headroom too, even though we have a panoramic roof. I mean, I think you could honestly fit probably 2 adults back here just because this is all-wheel drive, so it has a bit of a drivetrain hump. I guess I could sit here for a little bit of time and I wouldn't be too terribly uncomfortable. But CX-70 maxes out at 5 passengers. Of course, CX-90 can go all the way up to 8 if you spec it with a bench seat in the middle. So really, it's just all about preference. But let's pop the hood and we'll talk about this Inline-6 just a bit more. And then we'll get out on the road. What time is it? 11:11. I'm actually doing pretty good for timing today. Don't want to be late for sushi. Under the hood, we have hood struts, and that's about it because it's just a big plastic cover. I think this is the biggest engine cover I've ever seen on anything. Absolutely massive. But just to reiterate, 340 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, 48-volt mild hybrid assistance, 8-speed auto, all-wheel drive, all the right stuff. This weighs 4,800 pounds, so really, I mean, for the size that it isn't ridiculously heavy. And then this CX-70 Turbo S can tow 5,000 pounds if you get the towing package, which this one does not have. But Mazda has some really cool kind of Easter eggs on their website showing the CX-70 towing a Mazda Cosmo, which is like Mazda's OG sports car from the 60s, the late 60s. And then in the background, there's an FB-RX-7 somewhere on the website too. So lots of kind of heritage thrown in there. Mazda showing that they do care about enthusiasts still. My favorite part about this design is this little fender applique, which is a fake vent, I know, but it does say Inline-6, which I do think is cool. Shows that they're proud to finally offer an Inline-6. And it's cool because Mazda has kind of, in the recent years, been kind of elevating their brand, kind of coming after some of these higher end Europeans. And I think an Inline-6 is like the only thing they were missing because everything was still powered by a 4-cylinder. So this does make this feel a bit more like a BMW, which is kind of what I think they've been going for all along. So let's jump in. Let's start our day. I'm looking forward to looking at this beautiful tan steering wheel all day. But first, let's show you these front seats. Not a ton of adjustment, and they haven't moved the seat adjustments up to the door or anything crazy like that. We do have lumbar and a power adjust steering column as well. Love the design of these door panels, but again, there are things that let you know that this is a $58,000 car and not a $158,000 car. No leather on the top of the door panels. Pretty scratchy plastic on the bottom, but in between, pretty nicely trimmed. Good contrast of materials and stitching and everything. Window switches feel nice. We have a Bose 12-speaker sound system in this CX-70, which we know is going to be good. Mazda Boses are always pretty much at the top of the list for Bose sound systems. I mean, I think Mazda invests more than anyone else. Maybe GM does in some of their higher-end products. Pretty good ka-thunk from that door. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Somebody commented on my last video of a Mazda and they were like, I yearned for the day where reviewers put their seatbelts on before starting Mazdas. But it's part of the charm. You got to hear all 8 chimes in all of my videos. So I do apologize for that. Or you're welcome if you enjoy the Mazda bings and bongs. You can see big panel roof, like we said. There's a spot to put your sunglasses up here. Really nice frameless rear view mirror, which is not a camera. But I believe Mazda will actually sell you a camera rear view mirror. That's one of the few options that they will give you. And if you are familiar with the CX-90, then you're already familiar with the cabin of the CX-70 up front. My favorite, of course, being this big strip of Alcantara trim on the dashboard. Hazard switch front and center there, very easy to access. We have wireless Apple CarPlay, and this is a touchscreen, as you can see, but you also have the command control knob down here behind the shifter. Split folding armrest, physical volume knob here next to the command knob, and then we also have volume control on the steering wheel as well. Fully digital gauge cluster, which changes views depending on which mode you're in. You can see there for cruise control, not cruise control. And then we have a few drive modes: off-road, normal, and sport. All you need. What I still love so much about Mazda is they haven't strayed away from having this kind of driver's cockpit. Everything still has physical buttons. The seating position is great. The steering wheel is beautiful. It's exquisite. It's heated, but my one gripe is that it's only heated on the sides. The top and the bottom are not heated, which is a bit strange on a $58,000 SUV, but hopefully they fix that for next year. We have heated seats, ventilated seats, obviously all of that stuff, but everything is just laid out very nice in an ergonomic way. Vent placement is good, and you feel like you're sat in a car that is smaller than this big flagship CX-70. All right, I think that's probably enough of a walk around. Let's get this thing out on the road. We'll do a little bit of a circuit in sport mode to show you the performance, and then we're gonna stop, grab some sushi, and then we'll go out to Vintique Motors. This shifter is one like I've never seen before. You push over to the right for reverse, and then once you're over in that pattern, you push down for drive. We have a very dirty camera, which I'm actually gonna get out and wipe those off so you guys can see what they actually look like. This time of year is so tough because cameras just get really, really nasty here in Michigan. The cars get nasty, the roads get all torn up. Okay. All right. Into reverse. There you go. That's what the camera is supposed to look like. Really nice 360 camera, and overall camera clarity is pretty good. It's not the best that I've seen, but they get the job done. You can hear our backup noise there, since this is a hybrid technically, but I've never had it shut off in reverse, so I'm not really sure why it does that. Likely because you can also get the CX-70 in plug-in hybrid form, so they probably just code it into everything. We have our iStop control down here. We're gonna leave that on for now. Into drive, you can see that front camera pops up. And the first thing you notice is this CX-70 does not have pinky light steering, and I never expected it to, because Mazda does still care about driving, even though most of what they make these days are SUVs. What are the two cars they have left? The Miata and the Mazda 3? I think that's it. They don't make the 6 anymore. So most of what they make are SUVs, but they do still care about their enthusiast customers, people that care about driving. And if you're going for a CX-70 Turbo S, you probably do like to drive. Or you just like tan steering wheels. That is a possibility as well, as this tan leather is only available on the Turbo S. Quite a pronounced noise from this 3.3 liter. Certainly not as quiet as you may think. It could be looked at in a positive light or a negative light. It makes a pretty good noise. It's a little bit grainy up top, which we'll show you here. We're gonna go right into sport mode. That's off-road, that's sport. There we go. Slightly more aggressive downshifts there in sport mode. There's a lot more mechanical noise here than I expected. It isn't really a linear, sort of smooth, refined noise. You hear everything that's going on from that Inline-6, and it's kind of cool. We do have a manual mode. Pull a paddle to put yourself into it. It does kick you out pretty quickly, though. I believe you can toggle in the infotainment to leave these paddles on, not have them kick you out, but I just have them in kick me out mode because I haven't really been driving this in manual too much this week. And you can hold a paddle that will default you back into drive. Coming in on these brakes. Catching this F-150. And this is really where the CX-70 shines, is around a corner, which is so funny for an SUV like this. A little bit of turbo blow off. It's genuinely fun to drive. When we were driving the CX-90 in the hills and the twisties in San Francisco, I could not believe how much fun I was having. Let's see how this gets off the line. There's nobody coming. All right. I think for a first modern attempt at an inline-6 for Mazda, this is really all you can expect. Into the brakes, feel that weight. Pavement's greasy. But it dances around a corner as much as a 4,800 pound SUV can dance. It's getting a little toasty in here. Let's turn this down. Let's turn that off. But what I'm trying to say is there's a bit of that sporting pedigree here still. Go back into normal. Transmission tuning from this 8-speed is fantastic. I've had no weird shifts from this at all. The only thing I will say is that throttle tuning, it's a little bit excited. You have to really be careful, really just use your tiptoes to take off if you want to be smooth. Very aggressive. And then brake tuning, it's fine while you're driving, but when you're in a parking lot trying to kind of creep back into a spot or forwards into a spot, whatever, it's essentially impossible to like creep with this brake pedal. See if I can kind of demonstrate. No, we got a green light. When we park at the sushi restaurant, I'll show you. So anything above like 5 miles per hour, all of the throttle and brake inputs are fine, but at low speeds, you kind of have to think about it. And we'll give you a little bit of a glimpse of what this is like on the highway. And then we'll talk a bit more about that later. Oh, we got to pass this guy. I love that turbo blow off. Very cool. Nissan Versa rental car. That's what you guys want to see me driving all the time. Just Nissan Versas. Give you a second to observe our NVH in the CX-70. There's a bit of wind noise coming through. I don't remember it being super windy or gusty on the walk around, so just a little bit of that in here. Let's see what our in-house navigation looks like. Yep, still looks like Mazda navigation. Okay, jumping off the highway now. The car thinks I have somebody in my blind spot. That is an issue I've been having this week. Also, excuse me, I just sneezed. But I really hope those turbo noises come through. Man, if you put an intake on this, that would be really fun. So anyway, I've been having this issue this week where the car thinks I have somebody in my right side blind spot. So I have had a couple clenched moments where I go to change lanes and then the blind spot thing comes on. See our I stop there. Since this is a mild hybrid, starts back up very smoothly. Also, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a little bit of a creak somewhere in this steering column. I don't know if it's this plastic trim under here. Ooh, Lexus GS.
I'm having trouble connecting.
You can see our iStop is enabled there. 40 miles an hour, the engine is off, but I still have everything I need. I still have power steering. I still have my brakes, obviously. That should all go without saying, but some of the German manufacturers have a very similar system where the car shuts off at speed. And it's a bit more unnerving because I feel like you lose some things. Obviously, if you move the wheel enough, you do get it back. But one of my really good friends bought a Porsche Cayenne brand new in 2020, and I drove that car around a lot in downtown Chicago. Light to light, it was shutting off at 10, 15 miles an hour. And you would lose power steering when it would shut off. And if you yank the wheel enough, the car would turn back on. But you can see right now my engine's off. I've got everything still. I imagine they probably don't do that anymore. I've driven a couple Cayennes recently. I don't remember them doing that. Kind of a new part of the map unlocked today for you guys. I don't know if I've ever driven over here. Actually, I've never had the sushi from this place, so we'll have to see if that's any good. While this 8-speed is smooth, it doesn't shift the fastest. I imagine that's in some form of self-preservation, as this is a newly developed transmission for Mazda. This entire powertrain was new for the CX-90. Here we go. This is one of those moments where I wish the top of the steering wheel was heated. All right, we're gonna back this thing in. Over here, push straight up from drive. I know there's a car coming, they can wait. Okay, here we go. Really good fisheye cameras actually allowed me to see that Highlander coming up. Okay, now that's what I'm saying about it being hard to modulate the brakes. Actually, when you're going forward, it's not as bad. Okay, into reverse here. You simply cannot creep with this car. It's like an on-off switch below 5 miles an hour. You can see this right now. I'm having to... Okay, anyway. Into park. Parking brake on. And let's shut this off. And before I go in and have my first meal of the day, let's show you spacing in this parking spot. Again, same exact size as the CX-90, but fits in this parking spot with no problem. You can see rear doors, absolutely huge. So if you do have young kids, you may want to kind of brief them on maybe just 2 clicks for them to get out. Front doors, I guess the front doors are, yeah, they don't go quite as far, but these rear doors are absolutely huge. So, all right, well, I'm gonna go in and have some food, and then we'll commute to Vintique. After eating an unreasonable amount of sushi, it's time to get back on the road and continue our day. Of course, we have proxy key on the CX-70, no rear proxy key. Don't need to get into the back today. All right. The CX-70 does idle kind of high on initial cold start. Right now it's at like 1500 RPM, which I guess is somewhat high, but the other morning I started it and it was idling at like 1800. All right, well, we're not going to make you guys sit through this entire 33-minute commute out to Vintique today. Steering weight, even though not the lightest, it's still plenty maneuverable. It's a quick enough steering rack to where you can get this thing where you need it to be. But once we get on the highway, we'll talk a bit about ergonomics, and then we will do a sound system test on this 12-speaker Bose. We'll give you some final thoughts, and that'll be just about it for us today. We have fixed dampers on this CX-70. ride quality is nice. It's actually kind of on the firmer side, which goes along with kind of the sport nature of this. We're gonna bump this into sport. Looks like we're getting an entrance ramp to ourselves here. You feel the weight, but man, this thing can hustle. This is not new for Mazdas, you know. Mazda SUVs before this could still hustle, but for a 2.5 ton thing, this is seriously great. And then to kind of finish my thought on the ride, I know I said it's on the firmer side, but it's firm in a good way, like a firm mattress. You know, you can still sleep on it, you're still comfortable, but you aren't sinking down into it. This is not floaty like a Mercedes-Benz. But it just kind of helps add to the confidence here in the CX-70. The Topher had this car for a couple of days in the middle of this week because he is in Hawaii, or he's probably actually on the plane on his way to Hawaii right now on the day this is being filmed. But this used to make the blung blung noise when you put the signal on, because it, like I said, it constantly thinks there's somebody in your blind spot. He must have turned that off because it hasn't done it. It's so funny. As some of you know, the Topher and I split cars every week. So we spend 3.5 days in one car, 3.5 days in another. And oftentimes the cars come back less annoying because he always goes through and he turns off all the bings and bongs and he turns off the lane keep assist and everything. So I usually get the car back better than when I gave it to him. Okay, let's show you what kind of cruise control we have going on here. One push of this button here on the bottom right puts you into the cruise control mode. You can set that with one more push. And this is adaptive cruise, so it kind of got on the brakes pretty quick there behind this Cadillac. You can adjust your following distance. Everything lives on the steering wheel, very easy to operate. We have got some good entrance ramp karma today. As my dad calls me, he's going to be featured in the video. Hello. Ah. Hello?
Hey. Oh, sorry.
Taking an entrance ramp.
There's 2 tires on our purple, that's my phone.
Oh, okay.
So is it half of them, I guess? Like the other 2 are coming tomorrow?
Yep, should be.
Alright, I was just curious because it was weird that there was 2 on the other separate.
Yeah, the other 2 should come tomorrow. Sometimes when they ship tires, they send 2 and then 2, or sometimes even all 4 of them come separately. Well, as we get settled in here on the highway and kind of finish out our commute to Vintique, let's bring back a bit of an older song. I can't believe Survive kind of feels a little classic at this point. We've been playing Cobalt a bunch lately, so let's test out this 12-speaker Bose and see how it does.
That was my first and last mistake. I blew without your faith. Well, what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm cold.
As we know, Mazda Boses are always kind of in the top, like I said. earlier in the video. And this one, I wouldn't say that it's like leaps and bounds better than older systems. Like the one in Emily's CX-30 is fantastic, but it's just about on par. I mean, it's just a good, hearty, acceptable sound system for a car in this class. I mean, I wouldn't really argue with this for the $58,000 price tag. So good on Mazda for continuing to invest in these Bose systems. I really do think it does make a difference. Makes the cars even more appealing. 21.8 mpg is actually our average from this week so far. Ergonomics here in the CX-70 are fantastic. As I said early on in the video, Mazda usually always gets the driving position just right. And I'm sticking with that, even with the seat in the lowest driving position. I can see up, out, over this hood in front of me, so visibility out the front is nice. Back window's a little bit small, but like I said, Mazda will sell you a camera rearview mirror, if that is something that you would like. Blind spots, they're fine, they're not too bad, and we do have a blind spot system that is good when it actually works. This one doesn't. But actually sitting in this is nice. Seat comfort is good. Lots of good support for the back. We have lumbar adjust that goes in and out. It does not go up and down. Elbow comfiness is decent. You've got some padding on the split folding armrest, but it is quite shallow down to the plastic that lies below. And your left elbow is actually going to be a bit comfier because this is a much squishier surface here on the door panel. Center console slash dashboard does kind of protrude into the driver's compartment a little bit. However, there's a really good amount of padding right here, so you can rest your knee on it and have no real fatigue. So I like to see that. If they're going to design it this way, at least they make it comfortable. And on the left side, I mean, there's just a ton of room, so I can kind of relax my left leg as well on the dead pedal. It's so funny because the entire existence of this model could have just been an option box you could have ticked on the website, but no, Mazda's made it an entirely separate model. So some of you may like that, some of you may think it's silly. I'd actually be curious to hear your opinions in the comments on what you think their logic was behind making an entirely new model just to delete the third row. I don't mind because I've always liked the CX-90. I love this CX-70. Even though it is tramlining a bit right now on this surface with these 275 section tires. Calm down. I think you really could get away with spending 40 grand on one of these, considering you still get the Inline-6, granted only 280 horsepower, not 340, but you still get this really nicely tuned chassis. The interior, while it isn't trimmed the same, it does still look and function the same. So lots of good, I think, value here. At a base level, you don't get the Bose, you don't get the nice Nappa Leather and Alcantara, but you know, some people don't care about all that, and I wouldn't blame you for not caring about that. But if you are looking at a higher trim car, just know that this Turbo S is quite exquisite. I love the steering wheel, love the Alcantara, love the kind of blend of colors and materials in this cabin. Mazda, it seems with every model, gets closer and closer to luxury status, and this is most certainly the most luxurious Mazda that I have driven, this and the CX-90. I really just love the driving dynamics overall, and it's really cool because this car kind of gives parents and other people that may just need a larger vehicle an opportunity to have some fun while driving without having to go and buy a BMW X5 or a Porsche Cayenne. You know, you can have this, like I've said a million times, you can have it for 40 grand. Alrighty guys, well, this video was a little bit different today, but I'm trying to switch things up somewhat and give you guys some more variety with these videos. So let me know what you think. If you have any ideas, please let me know. But this will wrap it up on this 2025 Mazda CX-70 Turbo S. I love that they stole the Porsche name. Turbo S. Let's get this backed in at Vintique Motors. That'll wrap it up for us today. And that's it. Let's give you one last look at this CX-70 Turbo S. I do like this Rhodium white on here as well. There's also a cool like gold color you can get on this, which is unique to the CX-70. But anyway, you guys know my thoughts. If you made it to this point, you've watched 30 minutes of my thoughts on this car. So thank you so much if you have made it to this point, and let me know in the comments what you think of the CX-70. But that'll be it for us today. We will see you in the next one. Take care.